John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. Charles Pelegrino. The book is To Hell and Back, The Last Train from Hiroshima. This is the story of the Hiroshima bombing and the Nagasaki bombing, August 6th, August 9th, 1945. The bomb is gone. The Enola Gay, the great artiste, and Necessary Evil are heading back to Tinian. On the ground, however, there are survivors, people who have testified ever since, and there are some survivors who survived not only this, but Nagasaki. First, we're going to go from the point of view of people who are very close, within 1.5 to 3 kilometers of the hypocenter. We're going to do some technical language here. Let's start with that. What is a hypocenter?
The hypocenter is the point directly under the ground, directly under the bomb on the ground. In Hiroshima, it's just a very brief walk of several paces away from where that famous atomic dome is. You just go down the block, make a turn, and there's a stone marking the hypocenter. At that point, the temperature on the ground itself, that top inch of the ground, actually rose to about 20 times, more than 20 times the boiling point of water. 5 times the boiling point of water is enough to instantly disintegrate a human body down to the bone.
The Japanese have a term for it, pikodan, flash, and then the bang, or the wind, or the rush. Let's do the flash first. The flash is within nanoseconds of the detonation, and that is a killer. That's a death ray. Anybody who got hit by the flash dies almost automatically, except for some are shielded and some are not. So let's talk about that. The shadows. You write about shadows everywhere. What can create a shadow that can prevent the heat ray from killing you?
Well, the flash, it builds up over about 1/3 of a second to its maximum force, and you don't have much time to duck. There were shadows of trees, there were shadows of people, there were shadows of clothes on lines and buildings, there were shadows cast by window frames on chairs and by chairs on walls. And a lot depended where you happened to be standing. So there were people. There was one boy, Keiji Nakazawa. He was talking to the parent of a child at a school, and he was about 900 meters away from the bomb, and he was protected up to the top of his head by a wall in the schoolyard, whereas the woman across from him was not shadowed at all by the wall, and one side of her body was instantly carbonized on one side, and she was killed almost instantly.
That's the shadow. Now, the other part is the shock cocoon. What is that?
That happens with all explosive events, and we don't even fully understand it to this day. It's where a piece of metal or something pointing in the right direction can act like the prow of a ship, and much of the force just diverges right around it. And that's why the dome in Hiroshima, which it only had to intercept the blast wave going around it and stand against it for about 1/200th of a second in order to survive. The forces went around that. Trees standing near the dome were still sticking straight up into the air, and then the blast wave hits the ground and filters out, hits the ground and ripples out, and then knocks everything down in a direction away from the hypocenter.
The ship designer, Tsutomu Yamaguchi, he's a double survivor. He's 3 kilometers away from the hypocenter. When the light flashes, he seeks to go to ground. Something tells him to dive into a ditch. I presume that saves his life because he's out of the blast.
Right. He does get some of the flash burns, and this is 3 kilometers away. And he dives into a ditch in the potato field, and even though he was quick to respond, he did still get burns on one side of his body, and he was then lifted above the ground. He saw incredible things. There was all this dust flying, and he could see houses that were further away from him rippling and coming apart and flying in pieces in his direction, and fortunately he wasn't hit by any of those pieces. This is all during the backblast effect, or the implosion. You get this huge cavity of air that's evacuated by the bomb. The blast wave continues going out, and then this huge shock bubble then implodes and tries to draw everything that's on the ground into it. And that's what was happening to Yamaguchi. He was being drawn off the ground and spun around, and then ended up dropped in water in the potato farm.
Another survivor, Isao Kita, he's the chief military weather forecaster. He's about, 8 kilometers away. He is observing phenomenon after the flash bang, peak of dawn, which comes at about twice the speed of sound. He observes boiling dust, which he describes as yellowish, and the cloud climbing 5 kilometers almost instantly. And here's the puzzle, inky black smoke. What is he seeing?
Well, what he's seeing off in the northwest is the black rain and actually black hail that was starting to fall down from the cap of the mushroom cloud. And these sheets of black rain that were falling across the city in the direction of what's known as the Misasa Bridge.
He's also seeing spouts of smoke and fire. What is that?
Right. That was something children who saw them and survived described them as fireworms. They were actually tornadoes of fire, many, many of them throughout the city that could be seen, sometimes coalescing together into becoming great whirlwinds.